War is always a horrible thing to behold, and what's happening in Ukraine is no exception to that. The second problem is that wars have a natural tendency to expand and to escalate. The protagonists don't want to lose. If they're doing well, their war aims expand. If they're doing badly, sometimes their war aims expand to make up for it. So they are tempted to expand or escalate the war. Outsiders sometimes get involved or try and take advantage in other ways. And the longer a war goes on, and the more people die, and the more sacrifices occur, the greater these dangers are. So you really want to try and bring this to an end as quickly as possible. I don't think anyone should underestimate the risk of escalation here. First, as Radek pointed out, that's built into Russian military doctrine, this idea of escalating to end a war. Second, as Avril Haines warned, if Russia believes that its vital interests are really being threatened, that an existential threat, including a catastrophic defeat in Ukraine, is on the table, they may consider doing this as well. And they have threatened this in veiled ways. And I would think after the last decade or so, one might want to take some of Vladimir Putin's threats seriously. All right? He got into a war in Georgia because he didn't want Georgia to move towards Ukraine. He intervened and took Crimea in 2014. He mobilized forces on the border and said that he was going to do something about this if he didn't think his security interests were realized. And maybe we ought to take the possibility that this could get much, much worse quite seriously as well. Nobody thinks we should give Vladimir Putin everything he wants. Right. Mike is completely wrong here. None of us think you just give him more and more and more and more. The question is, do you have to recognize some of Russia's legitimate interests in order to bring this to an end? It makes us all somewhat uncomfortable here. In a perfect world, we would like to think that people who committed great crimes and people who made catastrophic policy errors, whether in the West or in the East, would be held to account. In a perfect world, that would be wonderful, but we don't live in that world. We live in a world that does have powerful states that do defend their security jealously, sometimes exaggerate the threat they face, something that certainly my country is not immune to, exaggerating threats and thinking it has to intervene in places for reasons that look absurd much later. But the point is, if you want to bring this to an end as quickly as possible, you have to start by recognizing Russia's security interests, the reasons they went to war. You don't stop there. You've got to think about Ukraine's interests too and the interests of the wider world. But that's where you have to start, as uncomfortable as that may be.